Hi, this is John from the Garmin Marine team. This is part one of a two-part video series on installing the GHP 20, Garmin's revolutionary new autopilot system. The GHP 20 has some amazing features not seen in marine autopilot before, like the new SmartPump, a single pump that can be configured to work on almost any size hydraulic steering system, or the new brushless DC motor inside the SmartPump that improves reliability and efficiency, or our steer-by-wire technology that allows the GHP 20 autopilot to interface with and control new electronic steering systems. Now, while this video will show you how to install the GHP 20 autopilot, professional installation is highly recommended. Specific training in steering systems as well as marine electrical systems is required to properly install any autopilot system, including the GHP 20. If you would like help with the installation, go to Garmin's website, go to our dealer locator, and select Marine Installer to find someone in your area to assist. To begin, let's take a look at the major components of the GHP 20 autopilot, and then we'll show you how to install each part. First, we'll install the display head. Then we'll install the CCU, the course computer, or as most people call it, the compass ball. Then we'll move on to the hydraulics section. First, we'll install the smart pump, and then the shadow drive sensor. Finally, we'll show you how to install the optional GRF10 rudder feedback sensor. When we get everything installed, we'll do the dockside wizard to set the autopilot up for our particular steering system, and then do the sea trial, where we will confirm the autopilot is functioning as expected. Now, before we install anything, just a few words of caution. Make sure you read and understand the instructions in the installation manual before attempting to tackle this project. Failure to install and maintain the equipment in accordance with the installation manual could result in damage or injury. Also, a note on personal safety. Always wear safety goggles, ear protection, and a dust mask when drilling, cutting, or sanding. If you experience any difficulty during the installation, contact Garmin product support for additional guidance. Now, before you drill any holes or mount any components, take the time to lay out and plan the entire installation. Make sure you have room to mount all the components. Make sure you have sizable wire chases that will allow you to run the electrical cables and hydraulic hose as needed. And pay special attention to the mounting location for the compass ball. Be sure that it's away from any magnetic interference and offers access for running wires to the rest of the autopilot system. Okay, so now that the planning is complete, let's get started by installing the display head. The display is your primary interface with the autopilot, so make sure you mount it where it will provide optimal viewing as you operate your boat and where you can easily access the buttons. Also, make sure the mounting surface is strong enough to support the display and has at least 3 inches of space behind it to route and connect the cables. Finally, make sure the display is mounted where it won't be exposed to extremes in temperatures and is at least 9.5 inches away from a compass to avoid interference. Okay, so this location on the dash gives us great visibility and access, and there'll be plenty of room behind it to route our cables. So use this template to confirm the display head will fit in your desired location. If you're happy with the location, use a 3.5-inch hole saw to drill out the hole for the display. And then a 1/8-inch drill bit for the mounting hardware. If you're mounting the display head in a fiberglass dashboard, we recommend that you countersink the hardware mounting holes to reduce the chances of the top gel coat layer cracking. And also apply an anti-galling lubricant to the mounting screws to prevent them from binding. Once that's done, install the display into the dash, secure the display with the included hardware, and snap on the trim rings to conceal the mounting hardware. The power and communications for the display head are provided in one cable, an NMEA 2000 cable. If you already have an NMEA 2000 network on your boat, simply run a drop cable from the display to a suitable location on the NMEA 2000 backbone, add a new T connector to the backbone, and then connect the drop cable for the display to the T connector. If you don't have an NMEA 2000 network on the boat already, you'll need to use the included cables to construct one. An NMEA 2000 network is an elegantly simple system that consists of a backbone, a series of cables or Ts that run throughout the boat with terminating resistors at each end. Each display or sensor is connected to the backbone through a T connection and its own drop cable. And finally, one drop cable is run to a 12-volt power source to provide power to all the NMEA 2000 devices. Check out Garmin's website or the installation manual for more information about NMEA 2000 if you have any questions. Alright, so make sure your display is connected to an NMEA 2000 network, and this part of the installation is complete. The next item on our install list is the CCU or compass ball. For the best performance, you'll want to mount the CCU along the center line and in the forward half of the boat, no more than 10 feet above the water line. You can mount it below the water line as long as it won't get wet in the location you choose. As the name suggests, the compass ball includes a very sensitive compass, and care must be taken to find the right mounting location. Do not mount it near any magnetic materials like speakers, motors, or pumps, or near large metallic loads like anchors, chains, and toolboxes, and avoid a mounting location that is close to high current wires, as they can all throw off the built-in compass. Use a handheld compass to check for any magnetic interference. If the compass does not point north, choose another location to mount the CCU. Finally, the CCU must be mounted so the wires are hanging straight down from the compass ball. So choose a location where you can secure the mounting bracket and orient the wires properly. The CCU will need to get connected to the pump, and the wire that connects the two is 16 feet long. If you have to mount the CCU more than 16 feet away from the pump, extension cables are available from Garmin or your local Garmin dealer in either 5 meter, 15 meter, or 25 meter lengths. One thing to note, we recently changed the fittings on our extension cables from quarter turn style connections to fully threaded connections, so make sure you get the threaded cables for the GHP 20. Our website is a great place to get additional information and part numbers on these cables and all of our accessories. Okay, so once you've selected the best mounting location for the CCU, use the bracket as a template to mark the locations for the mounting screws. Now, drill the holes and secure the mounting bracket using the included hardware. Place the CCU into the mount, place the top half of the bracket in place, and snap it into the mount. Make sure to tighten this thumb screw so the ball cannot rotate after installation. If it does, the compass will be completely wrong and the autopilot will not function properly. Now let's make our connections. First, the NMEA 2000 drop cable. Just like with the display, run an NMEA 2000 drop cable from the compass ball to an appropriate location on the backbone, add another T connection to the backbone, and connect the other end of the drop cable to the T. The second bundle of cables will connect the compass ball to the ECU located on your SmartPump. So route this cable to the pump's intended location. Two of the bare wires, the black and the brown, will connect the CCU to the shadow drive. So route them to the intended location of the shadow drive. We'll make those connections later. The red and blue bare wires will connect to the autopilot alarm. So route them to a suitable location under the dashboard. Make your connections to the alarm and mount the alarm where it will be heard above the ambient noise. Finally, in this video, we will install the GHP 20's incredible SmartPump. The SmartPump is so smart that it can be installed on almost any size hydraulically steered boat, and it will determine how much fluid to pump to make the necessary course corrections automatically. It also has that cool brushless DC motor that increases its torque as well as its expected service life. Typically, you'll want to mount the pump aft, near the hydraulic steering cylinder, to get the best performance. Often the boat's batteries are mounted nearby, which makes running power to the pump easier, as you may not have to extend the supply wires. Make sure you have good access to the pump and all of its fittings, as well as access to the existing hydraulic lines. The recommended installation method requires the installation of T-fittings and shutoff valves, so the pump can be removed for service without disabling the steering system. This installation will only use 3 of the 5 ports located on the pump manifold. Select an appropriate location to cut the existing hydraulic hoses where you're going to locate a T-fitting. Make sure you install the proper field installable connections on either side of the cut. Install your T's and now run a short hose from both T's to either the C or H ports on the pump. Make sure the hose, fittings, and shutoff valves you install have a minimum rating of 1000 psi. Also, do not use Teflon tape on any of the hydraulic fittings, as small pieces of tape can lodge in critical steering components and cause a failure. Instead, use a liquid thread sealant on all fittings. And then fully tighten all the fittings. Now, run a new hydraulic hose as a return line from the port labeled with a T on the pump's manifold up to your helm. Remove the lower plug from your helm, install a new fitting, and connect the return line to this port. Now, same rules here. Make sure to use hoses and fittings that meet the steering system's minimum specs, and don't use any Teflon tape on the fittings. And now, fully tighten all those fittings. Now that the hydraulic connections are complete, we can make our electrical connections. Earlier, you ran a wire from the CCU to the pump's intended location. Go ahead and connect that wire to the purple location on the pump labeled CCU. Now connect the pump's power wire to an appropriate power supply. We recommend mounting the pump in a location close enough to a battery so you don't have to extend the power supply wires. If that's not possible, please check the installation manual for the wire gauge recommendation based on the length of your run. Hold off on making the power connection to the pump at this point. We'll want to wait until we get all the components of the pilot installed before we apply power to the pump to eliminate any unwanted activity. Finally, drill and secure the pump in its intended location using the included hardware. The pump should be mounted securely to reduce noise and vibration when the pump is active. Due to the harsh environment that the pump normally inhabits, Garmin recommends spraying the pump with a corrosive blocker regularly to reduce the effects of the corrosion. Well, that's it for part 1 of the installation video. We showed you how to install the display, the compass ball, and the SmartPump. In part 2, we'll complete the project by installing the shadow drive, we'll show you the optional GRF10 rudder feedback, and then we'll sea trial the autopilot to make sure the pilot is performing as expected. If you have any questions about this part of the installation, please contact Garmin Product Support or any one of our authorized installing dealers. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the water.